talking about football in Trinidad and Tobago, and after a very successful Ascension Tournament, the organizers of the competition wrote to the TTFA seeking leave to organize an Ascension Caribbean Cup featuring the top three from the Ascension Tournament in TNT, plus the champions in Jamaica, champions in Barbados, and a champion in Grenada, in a tournament spread over 7 days in October. One shot and it was done. But the TTFA wrote back to say that they would not be granting permission for that league to be organized, because they said that the timeline for that competition, that one-week competition, would interfere with their plans for the start of the TNT Pro League. And as Mariah noted in her introduction, up to the time we were preparing to come on air, we had not seen any schedule or heard any format for the TNT Pro League. We're speaking with Richard Ferguson. He is the managing director at La Orqueta Rangers Football Club. And he is a man who has said that when the time is opportune, he will throw his hat into the ring again for the post of president of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association. Richard, we were talking about the letter that you got and trying to make sense of aspects of it. I want to draw something to your attention, though, because the letter says that on February 8, 2022, it had granted an exceptional and one-time basis approval for the Ascension League. In other words, what the TTFA is saying is that when you got permission to put on the Ascension Tournament, it said to you, look, yes, we will sanction this, but this is the one time that we're sanctioning anything that you're asking for. So for you to come back after that tournament to say, oh, I want an Ascension Caribbean Tournament, they're saying, well, you shouldn't have come to us in the first place, because you got your Ascension Tournament in TNT. We told you that it was one and done. You shouldn't have come back to ask for something else.
Yes, well, that is very interesting, because we are the only ones that is running football right now in Trinidad. We have run the Ascension Cup, which was, shown on SportsMax with great success. We are actually doing the sponsoring the Women's League right now, as well as all the zonal football in Trinidad. And we are also involved in secondary schools football, which again will be shown on SportsMax. So we are the only ones in Trinidad that is really helping and going out to help the footballers. That's the case. And what has been happening is that people have been clamoring for more Ascension League. They are continually asking, when are we going to play again? When is it going to be on SportsMax again? When is it going to be on TV? So this has been the issue. And of course, I have been trying to promote football as best as I could. But, that has not been forthcoming.
Yeah. The host cleaning, let's not pretend, Richard. The TTFA was in a right old state, and the normalization committee had a task on its hand to normalize the operations of the TTFA, to play on the nomenclature of what they're about and what they're supposed to do. So they've had a lot of work to do straightening things out. Do you get the sense that the focus on that work has been such that there has not been sufficient focus on the football and on trying to build relationships with the people like yourself who are interested in helping the normalization committee with the football side of things?
Well, I think the concept here is that the normalization committee doesn't report to the members. The argument there is that they have been put there by FIFA and CONCACAF, and as such, they report to them. And therefore, they don't really tell us, the membership, what is going on, what they are doing, what's the plans. They don't engage us. They don't really ask us, what is our opinion. And that is the concept. Their concept is they report to other bosses, not us, not the members.
Yeah. Richard, based on the last election, David John Williams against William Wallace, and you were the third horse in the race. The fact is that in terms of slates and support of influential people, you were at a disadvantage, because David John Williams had his colony of supporters. William Wallace had his crew who were trying to unseat David John Williams. They were successful. And so you didn't really have critical mass around your candidacy to elevate you to being a serious contender in the race. Based on how the landscape is looking, Are you confident that this time, when you toss that hat in the ring, you'll have the necessary support to win this election?
Well, George, that's a very good question. And what I would suggest is that right now, as I said earlier, you know, we have been very supportive of football in Trinidad. At the grassroots level in the zones, secondary schools, women's football, and senior football. And therefore, I would suggest here that we may have our nose in front.
Only your nose, Richard?
Only my nose.
Yeah?
My nose is not very big.
Hear you on that. But again, the fact is that Robert Haddad, I gather from the conversations that I've had with him and his public pronouncements, has no interest in carrying on in football beyond the time when his work is gone. And in any event, the normalization committee head is forbidden, according to FIFA rules, from seeking the presidency of the association when normalization is over. So he is to be discounted as a factor in any race going forward. You have to look at the landscape, and I know that you're a smart man. I know that you don't enter these races to lose, and you're a calculated man. You're a chartered accountant by profession, aren't you, Richard? So you know numbers and scenarios very well. And at this stage, do the heavy hitters in the football at the club level, do you have the overwhelming support sufficient for you to step forward confidently as a candidate and declare yourself ready to lead this country's football into the light and out of the darkness?
Well, as I said before, I feel we have our nose in front. You know, we have the support of the zones, we have the support of women's football, you know, we have the support of certain key clubs in the Pro League. So I feel, you know, we would certainly be a force in the election. But George, it's not about that. It's about managing football in Trinidad and about taking it to a higher level. And that's what we are about. It doesn't matter if I win or somebody else win. The key is that Trinidad football must succeed.
Yeah.
And it must continue to succeed. And I think one of the keys is that if you look at what went on in the Ascension League, and you have to pay special thanks to Nicholas and Kerry and those guys, you guys at
SportsMax. Nicholas Matthews and our CEO and Kerry Gibbons, our executive producer in TNT, yes.
They were absolutely fantastic because without them we couldn't show those games on television. And Trinidad went mad. They were absolutely crazy. People still stop me in the mall and talk about it. Yeah. They were absolutely crazy. They would sit down every Friday with their meal in front of their television to watch SportsMax. Yeah,
I can tell you that even within the Jamaica Premier League community here, among the club managers, they were very impressed with the Ascension League. They say it looked very good on TV and were casting envious glances comparing it to the JPL. The last question before we go, Richard, we're out of time. My producer is killing me. So between now and when we wait like Godot for the normalization committee to publish the Pro League fixtures and the schedule and everything, what do you do between now and then? What's the plan? Do you just sit and wait like the rest of us? Is there something that you and your team are doing in the background?
Well, we can't do anything else because, as you would have seen in correspondence, they will not be sanctioning any football other than their own. So therefore, the only thing we can do is wait and practice, train hard. That's all we can do.
Hear you on that. And try to get more than your nose in front.
Yes.
Hear you on that. Richard Ferguson, all the best. I suspect we'll be talking again. And as you know, we have a vested interest in Trinidad and Tobago's football from the perspective of fans and stakeholders. And so we'll be following things very carefully and very closely.
Thanks a lot, George.
Good. Richard Ferguson there, Managing Director of Lahore Quetta Rangers and a serious football man in TNT, discussing the state of football in the country and his plans for the presidency, assuming the presidency and giving the football what it needs. Mariah, your country is never boring when it comes to football, but not enough football is happening.
Well, that's exactly what's the problem. The fact that we're always discussing something that isn't focusing on the football. But what I will say, listening to Richard Ferguson and judging by what we saw from the Ascension Football League, I get the sense that he's a man who has a plan where football is concerned. He, of course, has the financial backing, which in any sport, you need proper finances. And what we saw from just that one competition looks as if, he can probably steer Trinidad and Tobago's football in the right direction. So I'm looking forward just to see what happens when it's time for that presidency and whatnot. Who else puts their hat in the ring? But the Ascension League was a good showing from Richard Ferguson and team.
Yeah, and the fact that he mentioned that Trinis were in front of their televisions every Friday night is a huge statement, because Trinis like to fet a lot, and Friday night is a fetting night.
What
so
do
if
you
they're
know
giving
about Trinis?
What do I know about Trinis? I know a lot about Trinis, Moran. Are you denying that Trinis like to fet? And Friday night is a big fetting night. You're not denying that? Well, you can't. Well, George said they're just sitting and waiting. They sit and wait. Those are the opening lines of the big Robbie Williams song, Angels, I think about 15 years ago. So they're sitting and waiting. George, what's the problem?
There's no problem, my friend. I think Mariah may be a little bit slow on a Robbie Williams. You need to say.
Well, after that joke,
There you go.
I can't come back.
Mariah, whatever he said, whatever he did, he didn't mean it. Yeah, he just wants to take a break for good. Yeah, Robbie Williams, let's take a break.
Sit and wait.